Welcome to Untamed Blossoms, the podcast where we celebrate the untamed journey of womanhood. Here, we tell the stories of incredible women who have embraced their authenticity, inspiring others to do the same.
From entrepreneurs to artists, activists to adventurers, we share triumphs, challenges, and the beauty of self-discovery. These are the stories of women blazing their own trails, breaking free, and blooming unapologetically.
Join us to connect, be inspired, and celebrate the power of women's stories. Together, let's rewrite the rules and embrace our wildness.
Welcome to Untamed Blossoms. I'm your host, Amanda Riley.
And I'm Cristi Riley. Welcome to the show.
Do you see this?
I do.
I
What'd
have
you
a
do?
perfectly round bruise on my kneecap.
How'd you do that?
I don't know how I did it. I don't know where I did it. And I'm like, why is it like it's not as noticeable today, but it's like perfectly round. It's so bizarre.
I'm sure you did it at the gym.
I also move. I'm a flailer. Like in life, I flail my way through things. And I just use my body to get through. I'm like a WWE wrestler.
It's hard to tell how you got it. Hard to say.
In my drinking days, I have my normalized sobriety shirt on, by the way. In my drinking days, I would wake up from any night out covered in bruises. Because I would dance and do funny things, not because I was like wrestling or like fighting anybody, because I literally flail my body around and I had no spatial awareness.
Yeah. I remember at your bachelor
I wrestled Haley.
party. You just the aggressive dancing you're doing.
Oh my God, I
leave a
know.
mark. Yeah.
I had bruises all down my legs after that.
You were
Not
so
to
fun to watch,
mention,
so I will say that.
no one ever thought I was a bad time. There's maybe a handful of times where I'm sure people would be like, she was a bad time. But most of the time, it was just a lot of very aggressive dancing and flailing.
Yeah.
I also put sheets of temporary tattoos all over my body, and those didn't come off for like a week.
That is true. I'm an easy bruiser, so I never know when I'm going to get a bruise and have usually zero clue how I got it when I do.
So mysterious. It's such a female experience too.
Weird.
Female iron bruises.
What?
Whoa, science. Oh, wow. Well, at least today we got to sit outside a little.
You and I sat in between guests today. It was great.
It was so nice not to feel my face freezing off.
No.
Truly.
This is where I start to get hopeful, and then cold weather sets back in, and then I'm gearing up for spring, but we're getting closer and closer.
Yeah, it's getting lighter longer.
Yeah, and you get a little break in the sun in Florida soon, which will be great.
Yeah, it's gonna be weird next time you guys see me. I'm gonna be so tan.
So tan.
I tan so easy.
I'm gonna have to go see Brittany get spray tan right on. Just
Remember, if you all listen to Brittany's episode, you get a spray tan for $10 as a new client.
That's right.
Go get yourself a spray tan. Get the spring feeling. Go see Brittany at the Happy Naked Company.
Happy Naked Company. That's right. Yes.
So
yes,
$10, new clients. It's amazing. That's such a good price for a spray tan.
Tell her you heard about her through us.
Yeah. Well, today's guest is awesome. I met her at the Beauty Boost. Her name is Liesl, and she is just one of those people who you immediately feel super happy to be around. She is like a light and a breath of fresh air. She does human design. She's just an amazing person, and I'm just really excited for everyone to get to know her.
Yeah, I can't wait. I went and purged and took in all of her social media and all of her videos, and she's an adoptive mommy, and she's got quite the story. So we're excited to meet her.
Well, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
We're so excited to have you.
Yeah.
I feel like it's been so long since I've seen you in person. I was trying to remember the last event. I feel like it was over like in Franklinton. There was a
like New
panel?
Year. Oh, yes.
It was a women's panel, I think.
Yes, I think you're right.
Time.
Yeah. Well, it's so good to see you again.
No.
Been too long.
Amanda just introduced you as like the biggest ray of light of somebody that you
Oh.
just feel like you already know when you meet them.
Thank you.
And I have to say, she was spot on about that.
Oh,
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. That
Yeah.
means a lot.
Because I think Brittany, my friend Brittany Stone, I think she's the one that kind of like was like, oh, and I had thought I had already met you. Like you're one of those people
Yeah.
that you're like, oh yes, I know her.
Yeah.
And then I realized I hadn't, and I was like, oh my gosh, like
That's so funny.
you're just one of those people.
I love it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I like follow you on Instagram. It's hard to like know who you've actually like officially met versus like who you know
Right.
Totally.
on Instagram.
Right. Instagram now.
Yeah.
IG now. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, when did I meet this person?
Yeah.
Did I? Only in my mind.
I thought I met this other person, and she lives in Canada. So
Oh.
I was like, definitely did not meet you in real life. But it's hard when you're chronically online, like I am.
Yeah.
So,
I think it makes it kind of fun, makes the world like smaller. And then even
Yeah.
sometimes my husband will be like, oh, yeah, my friend on Instagram. And I'm like, she has no idea that I exist. Yeah, I'm calling her my friend because I follow her and enjoy what she's sharing or whatever.
I see all of her videos. I feel like
Exactly.
yeah, I agree. I
Yeah.
totally agree.
I love that. It's so funny because I didn't really know you were into human design, really.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
we have been like hardcore doing our own human design journey with
Fun.
one of our good friends, and we're both manifesting generators. So
Love that.
imagine that.
Yes. So fun.
What are you?
I'm a projector.
Really?
5-1 projector. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you
so-
tell us how you got into that and like
my
a little bit
gosh.
about that journey? Because I'm super curious.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think I met Danny Sage at actually probably a Beauty Boost event.
Yeah.
Thought she was like super cool. And I remember I went in for a reading, just like a regular tarot card reading or something with her. Maybe it was even I met her at like one of the Halloween or like
The
hippy
Hocus
dippy
Pocus,
ones. Yeah. I love those ones. And but yeah, I went into the store and met her, and then I think she was talking about human design. And then for my birthday that year, I was like, you know what would be really fun to get myself? Like, I'm gonna look up my human design. So I did, and it was amazing. And I like, loved everything that she put out there. And then I was like, I have to do my husband. And so I found out what he was.
You have to do
and-
everyone you know at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's been actually like so interesting in our marriage to be able, he's a generator. And so being able to be like, okay, you have the energy to do more things than I do, and I need to nap.
Yeah.
I need to like do these things that like don't make sense to you. And so sometimes I'll be like, I'm generating more than I want to be. And he'll be like, I'm not ready to like go take a nap. So it was really cool to be able to like have that language and like communicate with each other. And he's also an easy breezy genius. I forget what the numbers are for that, but even just like realizing that about him and, helping him. He also has like a very strong gut, which like we love to travel, and we've been like traveling abroad before. And I'm like, everything's fine. And he's like, I think we need to turn around right now. And I'm like, why? And now being able to be like, okay, you have a strong gut. I will listen when you say that. Like, we need to do something differently. So that's been really fun. And then I've done Caleb, my son, now too.
What is
In
he?
human design, he's also a generator.
Nice.
So
You're surrounded by energy.
exactly. I'll take it. Yeah. So it's been really fun. He's also like a caves. I don't know if you guys have done your environments
I
yet.
don't have my exact birth time.
Mm.
And so she gave me she told me I was caves based on other
really
stuff,
fun.
but it doesn't line up with I'm like, that doesn't feel right to me. So we're going to dive deep
Sure.
in on it, but I don't know that she's told you your environment.
I
Has
think I'm
she?
a shore. Does that
Ooh.
make sense?
I don't remember
But I think
what
I
I know.
forget.
There's
Yeah.
mountains,
Yep. Valleys,
valleys,
caves, kitchens, shores. I'm a markets person, and I think there might be one or two more. I'm
Mhm.
just getting into the environments now, but
yeah.
learning that he was a cave was really helpful when he was like an infant. I looked it up like as soon as we found out when he was born, and he would not sleep in a bassinet to like save his life, and it was like we're holding him the whole time. And then we put the little like I don't know what you call it, but the little like hood over his bassinet. Slept like
Totally
a baby
fine.
through it, and it was like all right, caves, man, like, let's go.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Like,
it's been really fun.
For sure, you have to be in a cave.
Yes, exactly.
Not even a little bit.
Right.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's like one of
so
my
it's so
favorite
fun.
things about human design is it just gives you the the allowance to show up the way that feels best for you without feeling bad about that. You know?
Yeah, totally.
And giving grace for the differences of the people in your life
Yeah.
and understanding them, right? So that you don't
Totally.
always have to be alike just because you're married,
Right.
Yeah.
right? That you can
Yeah.
have differences and it's okay.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think I love like learning about how people like to create what they want to create and like all of that kind of stuff. Now I use it with all my clients. I look up their charts and tell them about it. And that's been really cool. I just feel like it's just like so helpful. Even for me, I don't think I would have picked up on it for myself that I'm like, so as a projector, for anybody that doesn't know, like you're supposed to wait for invitations.
Mm.
And I think I was someone who was like, I'm supposed to be able to go out and make shit happen.
Mhm.
Like, let's just force it. Let's just, go for it. Or like, I need to put it all out on the table in order for
Yeah.
it to happen. And I think since learning that I'm a wait for invitations person, it's like given me so much grace to be like, this is so uncomfortable. And I really want to like force to make this happen.
Yeah.
Like, especially with fertility stuff. Like, I feel
Right.
like that was like very much in that energy. And to be able to be like, all right, I'm just supposed to sit back and wait. Like it gives me goosebumps talking about it because it's like, it feels so weird, but
Yeah.
it works, like
Totally.
that kind of stuff I feel like is really like so like honoring,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're in flow at that point. So it's amazing what happens when you're
Yeah.
open to that. Yeah, it's interesting when you start living in flow and then things start opening up for you that you're like, this was so hard before. And I thought I was doing the right thing by doing this thing. And then when you realize, like, for us, we're manifesting generators, of course. So I get bored all the
So
time.
easy.
So easy. And it's also just
And
my
she's a
birth
Leo.
chart.
And
And a Sag rising. And
I'm
your
a Sag
Sag.
too.
We've had double
double
Sagittarius
Sagittarius today.
But yeah, like I always felt like I had to be so disciplined and committed because if I wasn't, people would see me as flaky and people wouldn't feel like they could depend on me.
Mm.
And then what I realized doing the work through human design was like, I'm never going to be fulfilled or happy or the best version of myself to other people I'm in relationship with if I'm bored out of my fucking mind all the time.
Right. And like you're meant to be the one that like quits halfway through and
Yeah.
like, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I love the idea of like manifesting generators. I saw this video the other day where it was like you are starting to unload the dishwasher and then like the cup that you pick up like reminds you of something upstairs and like then you're upstairs and doing all kinds of things and then eventually you come back down and like finish it way faster
Like,
than if you would have.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like trying to
Totally.
like force yourself to do it.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I got 6 things done upstairs and then came downstairs. And my husband's always like, how do you get things done so fast? Because I'm a manifesting generator.
Just the nature, man.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
seriously, like it's
Totally.
Yeah.
we get things done. The two of us get things done so fast.
Yeah.
And the biggest blessing, and I don't know if you've ever done this, we had a reading done for the business.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's so fun.
So it was a game changer for 2 manifesting generators who can come up with every known idea on the planet and then have the energy to do it. Our
Yeah.
mantra is just because we have the idea and we can doesn't mean we should.
I love that.
And because we can and we have a lot of ideas, but maybe we shouldn't.
Sure.
And so we were going down a lot of roads with Untamed Blossoms and trying to figure out what we were going to do and bumping into things and not in other things. And so we decided to have a reading, but not until after we thought we were going to be a wedding venue.
Oh.
And it's like a women's collective, but we were also going to have a venue attached to it. So
Wild.
much so that I looked at a wedding venue and a $1.5 million wedding venue and placed a bid on said venue.
Oh my gosh.
Thank God they didn't take it. But
The universe is funny that way sometimes.
Totally. It was like,
saved us
whoa.
from ourselves.
I
The stress that would have come with that. And when we sat down with a human design person and did the reading, she was like, she's a projector and it's meant to be easy, but it's going to be a lot of like trying things before you find the right thing.
Cool.
And she's like, and I see a lot of products in this. Like, I thought you were going to tell me you were bringing products to market.
Interesting.
But what's come of the podcast is that we share a lot of people.
Yeah. Isn't
That's
that
really cool.
wild?
That gives me
I
chills.
know.
Oh my
Like,
gosh,
it was
so
never our
cool.
products that was supposed to come forward. It was, and she's like, it should really feel easy to both of you. It should never feel hard.
Yeah.
Oh, I
And
love
literally, the
that.
podcast has never once felt difficult. Even us laughing through our first episodes under the blanket, trying not to echo in her office, and we
love it.
interviewed only friends in the beginning because we were like,
This is safe.
this is
Totally,
safe.
that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Gotta
Gotta do it
they were
messy
like,
first.
or, like, do you have this and this? And we're like, nope. And I'm like, well, we'll get through it.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
good.
That's
But
so
it's
cool.
cool that had we not had the reading done for the business, I think we would have floundered a lot more than we have and not found our niche quite as fast as we did
Yeah.
in that
That's
whole
really
scenario. So
cool.
it was really cool to have it done for the business.
Interesting. I'll have to
yeah.
have that done too, because I think I've done a business reading, but it was more of like me as a business person versus like specifically like I love naming the voices in your head. So I've named my business Joan. And so I haven't had Joan's reading yet. I've had like Liesl, the business owner.
Yeah.
But I'll have to figure out, get your person.
Well, we
That'd be
had
fun.
an LLC established, and I just took the birth time of the LLC. So when I it had a birth date, it had a time,
Fun.
like when it literally came into existence.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I could even do that for myself.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So fun. Okay.
Yeah. So it was cool.
I'll keep you
It
posted
was
with
really
Joan.
cool. Tell us what Joan has to
It's another generator. I'm going to be like,
I'm not here. So you are doing that with your coaching, like you combine those things. So talk to us about your coaching business and where that came from.
Yeah. It's so funny. I was listening to some of your other podcasts and I feel like, I think you said even there was like a theme of people doing like what they should do and then realizing that's not for them. And that was like my experience also. And so I feel like I was in the corporate world. I thought I was going to be a pediatrician actually originally, like went to school for bio, graduated with biology, and then was like, I actually don't want to go to med school and work 90-hour weeks. And especially as a projector, like, thank God.
Yeah.
And so, it's like, there has to be another way, and just kind of like stayed in the medical field for a while and just realized like that wasn't for me either. And our medical system, we could talk, I was in marketing for pharmaceuticals, so we could talk all about that at a different time. But I was like, and then I was let go 2 weeks before my wedding. That was like a huge thing. Yeah, the company wasn't doing well and they had me in for like this big presentation. My boss said I killed it. That was on a Friday. They gave me a wedding shower. And then Wednesday, they let my whole team go. Yeah. So that was like a huge thing.
Gross.
Yeah. And got the easiest job I could after that, and then started working with a coach. And I had never had coaching before. This person was like, I had recently moved to Columbus. Like I moved the year before we got married. And he had gone to Miami of Ohio where I went. So it was just like, I was trying to find any alumni in Ohio, like in Columbus to connect with. And he helped me with like my career stuff and find my path that way. And I was like, I love this work. Like this would be so fun to do with people, but that's terrifying to like start your own practice. Right. And so I decided I would do HR instead.
Okay.
And then my goal was to check in with myself in 6 months to see if I liked it. And 8 months, I was like, I can't, this is not it. I want to be a coach. So I went back to school and did that. And then I feel like at the very beginning, I was a lot of like job search help stuff. Like, how do you get a job? What do you need? Especially if you're changing industries. Like that was like a really big thing for me. And then it kind of shifted into burnout and helping people with that. I think looking back, my parents were both burnt out and like how that affected me as a kid. And then I think like taking those overworking, overgiving kind of stuff, people pleasing, like all perfectionism, all of that into my working life, and healing a lot of that stuff. And so like prioritizing your joy, like all of those things, feeling your feelings, like so much of that work I was doing myself. And so then I've really focused on burnout, and helping people find their way. And then I think also with We were dealing with some fertility stuff for 4 years and then decided to adopt. And so I think that also kind of goes into like the burnout and pushing yourself and even just
Totally.
like the projector stuff. It was so fascinating
Yeah.
to, yeah. So I feel
And
like,
maybe go back to that, right? So you said like
yeah.
you observe your parents through that burnout.
Mhm.
And then you also said like I knew that this probably wasn't right for me when you went into the corporate world. So like can you talk to us about experiencing parents who are going through that and how you kind of took that with you as you became an adult and then didn't trust that gut feeling of like I know what I should be doing.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting that our society like celebrates the overworking and almost like busyness is like if you're not busy, it's a bad thing. Um like my mom used to say like a truly smart person is never bored. And like bringing that forward with me, I think I was like I'm supposed to like go and do and I probably was surrounded by more generators. I haven't done their charts or anything. But I think I just had this like pressure to go do a lot. And I think like society celebrates that. You know, you're supposed to grow out of naps
Yeah.
and like all of that kind of stuff. And I think I saw my parents, my mom was a teacher and she loved it. My dad had his own business in IT and loved it. And I think they both, it was really easy for them to overgive because they really enjoyed what they were doing. But then sometimes they would come home and not have space for us. And I was the oldest. So it was kind of, it felt a lot like, okay, this is on me then to like fill the voids kind of. Which as a projector, I think there's a part of me that loved that, right? Like
Yeah.
being able to like see things
Mhm.
differently. And yeah, so I think being able to like see that in other people and realize that we get burnt out for good reasons, like giving ourselves compassion for that. And even just, I talk about it as like their habits that our brain has. And just like any habit, we have to like work at it. And
Yeah.
you're going to hit it at every level. And like, that's not a bad thing. It's just like being able to catch it and then like heal ourselves from it and like continue to just catch it a little bit faster every single time. So that's been really fun to be able to see in myself. And even like, I feel like I got a cold. We've got adoption finalization things happening and we learned something last week that like meant that we have to do a lot more work for it, which is totally fine. But I had a lot of feelings about it and I think I overgave and like did more than what really felt good to me as like, okay, this is like the thing I can control. I'm going to like go for it. And then I got a little bit sick, you know? And so it's
Yeah.
just like learning how to listen to your body better um and noticing like I think the old me would have gotten a cold and been like, you know, I don't know if we can swear, but
Yes.
like,
Oh, you can
fuck
say
it.
whatever. Yeah, fuck it.
Like, this is ridiculous. I shouldn't be sick, you know, like this is no time to be sick.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think just like learning now that it's like, okay, I just overgave, no biggie.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
next time I'll check in faster or like, of course I did because this was what I could control, like not a
Right.
problem.
Yeah.
I think that has really changed too, my like relationship with myself.
You the oldest of how many siblings?
3. I'm one of 3. Yeah.
One of 3.
Yeah.
Are they boys or girls underneath you?
1 boy, 1 girl. Yeah.
So you felt like mom and dad comes home and then, I think as oldest, if you're the firstborn female anyway, you kind of feel like
Yeah.
you sort of assume that kind of caretaker role when parents aren't around and
Totally.
not even if you wanted it, but it was really handed to you, definitely. I think in some families,
Yeah.
right? Because you need to be. They need the help, but if they don't have if they're tired and they've, you know, then
Yeah.
you've stepped into that role, right?
Totally.
So, how did that translate into when you got into corporate America and you're in HR? Did that resonate with you in that moment? Did you understand that that's where you're like, I this is familiar to me and I don't like it, or did it take some work to figure that out?
I love to think about it as like every step we take gets us closer.
Mm.
And so like I think once I was really in it, I was like, okay, this is like better than what I had been doing, but it doesn't really, it's still hard in ways that I wasn't expecting. And I was in associate relations. So I was doing a lot of like firing and having tough conversations. And like, I think I was good at that and I got a lot better at that as I was working on it. But I was like, this isn't fun. You know,
Yeah.
firing people, even compassionately, is not fun.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
And it's like, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
And I think, especially because I had these two paths that maybe I was interested in. And I was like, I feel like I've done the HR thing. And I feel like I've done the like job search thing. I had a goal to like get a job in less than 30 days because I had LinkedIn Premium and I didn't want to pay the
Yup,
extra.
been there.
You know? And I got my job on day 27 and was like, oh yeah, this is amazing. So I was like, okay, check. I think what I really want is just to be a coach. And I think that was like kind of the confirmation I needed. And I learned so much during it. But I think I was ready to like, okay, I think I can do this more than I thought I used to think I could do this.
Well, I like what you said about things leading you closer because, from being corporate America myself and having many jobs, especially leading people, I always love new hire. I always love training people, right? And I was like, I love watching people like get something. Like they're like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, this makes sense. And I loved having conversation with my employees where I really helped them in their career or like get past an obstacle. And so now when I'm having conversations with people, whether it be here or I'm working with a great realtor team right now that I really love and watching other people learn something or watching someone get something for the first time or seeing someone have an aha moment when you're having a conversation, I'm like, that's what all this was for.
Yeah.
It was to learn how to be a good listener. It was good. It was a way for me to learn how to ask great questions, interviewing people for new hires,
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
it's all these things are purposeful to get us closer to the thing that we're meant to do.
Yes. I love that. I think there's so much pressure to like make the next right step. And I feel like that's something that I worked a lot with myself and with my clients all the time of like, there's not one right answer. If you take this step, there's like, I was just talking with a client about like, it's almost like there are so many cross streets to get to where you want to go that like you could take 80 different paths and it'll still get you to where you want to be if you're like listening to yourself. So I love that that's like so cool to see how you like managing helped you get here. That's so fun.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Well, and the same. It used to be really. I used to be really embarrassed about being a manifesting generator because I didn't have a terminology for that, and so we start a bunch of things.
Yeah.
But we don't finish a bunch of things.
Right.
Like we get all excited and we want to do the thing. And then I'm the queen of like 80%.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm an 80% girl. I get about 80% there. I'm like, that's close enough.
Yeah.
Or I get bored. Right?
Yeah.
I'd be really excited about something and then I'd be like, and I'd want to move on. Same thing in a career. So I've done a lot of things.
Yeah.
But now I feel like instead of being embarrassed about that, it's wisdom.
Totally.
It's wisdom. I have a lot of wisdom about a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And that's whether that's nursing, whether that's interior design, whether that like I have a wheelhouse of things that I can talk about or pull from, right?
Yeah.
Which is beautiful when you're in a conversation with
Totally.
Yeah.
and I don't have to be embarrassed about that.
Yeah.
Totally.
So same thing, right? It's
Yeah.
building on things and and once you understand yourself, you can take the things done and instead of labeling them as a mistake.
Yeah.
Nope. I just
Yeah. It was a learning
I
lesson.
was just learning.
Yeah.
And now I can use all of these things in what I'm supposed to be doing and it's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's so cool. And I think too, like that's so fun to be able to like try something and then like move on quickly, like to be able to know like, okay, this isn't right for me, or I took this thing, or I came here to learn this. Now I'm done. Like that's like, I think like so cool.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it'd be interesting to like hear how did like nursing and interior design, like you made this like amazing, like I'm sure there's interior design stuff in there, right?
Yeah.
Like
this whole barn was a workshop before Cristi took over cement floors and installed us,
and it's gorgeous.
And
yeah.
And it's so cool.
I make things pretty and that's cool. And that's literally what my business was called, was Make It Pretty Design.
I love that.
And I love using old things and I love losing found things. And I probably couldn't list 10 top end designers if you asked me to. It's just not my cup of tea. But I love vintage everything. I love antiques.
Yeah.
But I love all of those things, but I don't it was always an outlet for creativity for me.
Yeah.
And although for me, nursing, I never really remembered choosing to be a nurse.
Sure.
I just kind of was like, I don't know if my family was always like, well, you should be a nurse because it's always good money,
Right.
But I was always a caregiver anyway. So I don't remember making that choice.
Sure.
But I definitely always kept trying to have my own entrepreneurial thing.
Cool.
Like always, whether it was
Yeah.
a side hustle. I told her manifesting generators are like, we must be like the top target for every MLM pyramid
Totally.
company out there because
Sure.
we get real excited.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I will be a millionaire from this business.
And then we're like, wait, this is not
This is not it.
not it.
I'm
That's so
curious,
cool.
do you have a lot of women that come to you, as your other coach and saying like, I don't know why I'm doing all these side hustles. Like, I'm burnt out, but like I feel like I should be like, do you find that women just have a really hard time with like not understanding and knowing their direction?
Yeah. I think, and also it is really cool to see based on like their type. I feel like manifesting generators have like a really hard time with like quitting things, or at least the ones that I've worked with
Yeah.
do. And then like feeling like I need one direction. And so like being able to help people be like, you're actually not meant to have one direction, and you're actually meant to like join the soccer team and quit after 2 games. And like you're supposed to be that way. I think like that has given people a lot of like, or even just like my generators, like I have all this energy, but I'm spending it on things I hate and I'm frustrated. Like, I think like that's why I love human design, because it gives you like all that language to like talk about it that way. And I think a lot of people come with like, I feel like I should have more direction than I do. And sometimes it is just learning how to like listen to ourselves, because I think we're not taught how to do that really.
Totally.
And so being able to like help people learn, one of my favorite studies that they taught us at in school for coaching was they did a study of like 3 types of different people. One group of people didn't talk or reflect at all. They just like lived their normal lives. One group talked to a lamppost for an hour every week. Then the other group talked to coaches for an hour every week. And the coaching obviously did better than anybody else, but the lamppost people still did significantly better than the people who didn't talk to anybody at all. And I just love that idea of like, sometimes we just don't hear ourselves until we're like given the container to like really listen. And like what you were talking about earlier, asking the right questions and like really reflecting on it. I feel like sometimes we don't get that.
Well, we live up here, right?
Yeah.
And like, girl, it can be crowded up there.
Yeah.
And we were just talking to our last guest about this, without having an outside voice, even if it's you talking to nothing, the lamppost,
Yeah.
it's better than you talking to you up here, because she makes up some shit. Like,
Totally.
so, and if you have someone like a coach that can guide you through those conversations, even better. But as long as it's not just living and ruminating up here, like that's key.
So true. Yeah. And I think too, it's like who's talking up there. Like I name all of my voices. So I've got Joan, the business, right? My inner critic, got a guilt girl, we got the one who knows you can do it, like that, like fierce warrior type person. And like just knowing who is talking. I feel like sometimes too, like the inner critic can kind of be sneaky and dress up like anybody.
Totally.
And so I think, yeah, that's so true, to be able to just like talk to somebody and have them be like, I feel like you're being really hard on yourself or whatever, can be really helpful.
Totally.
You don't hear it that way in your own mind. But when you say it out loud to another, it's like, wow, what are you talking about?
Right.
Yeah. You're doing a ton, or this is more than enough, or what are you saying? And then you're like, oh, well, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that reflection.
Yeah. It sounds really true when it's just like floating in your head, and then it's like, oh wait, that's not true at all.
Yeah, your ego's just making up stuff to make itself right.
That's what the mind does. Right?
Yeah.
The mind is bored and will just make things up to have something to do.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
I would love to know how you met your husband and a little bit about your
Yeah.
relationship and then your decision to start the journey of motherhood.
Yeah. So Adam and I met in college. His ex-girlfriend was actually in my sorority.
Oh.
Yes. Yes. So we she actually introduced us. She like came up to me we were doing this like walk, like to raise money for something. I don't even remember, but we were going on this walk for the sorority. And she came up to me and she was like, "Is it okay if I give Adam your number?" And I was like, "I mean, is that okay with you?"
Yeah.
She was like, "Yeah." And she was dating someone else already. And I was like, "Okay, sure." And so then she did. And then we hit it off.
Wow,
And
she's a real one. That is women helping women right there.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. She wasn't so much of a fan when it actually worked out, but
That'll
Let's
just
see.
yeah, but at the beginning it was super awesome. And then and then we were like talking and he asked me to be his girlfriend and I said like I would love to, but I'm going abroad to Luxembourg next semester. So like I'll catch you when I get back kind of. And he was like, "Oh, that's funny. Like I also applied to that program. I just haven't accepted yet." And so literally we went abroad together like
Oh,
2 weeks after like
Wow.
officially dating, we were going to Luxembourg that next semester. So that was really fun. And I feel like it like helped us grow really quickly close together and like, learning what each other needed and like that kind of stuff. We loved traveling and then came back. I lived in Cincinnati for a couple of years after college and he was in Columbus and he loved his job. And thank goodness we moved here instead of Cincinnati because I was let go 2 weeks before our wedding from that
Oh
job
my
in
gosh.
Cincinnati.
oh gosh.
So it all worked out well. And
Yeah.
then we had so much fun. We lived in like the short north area
Yeah.
Yeah.
for a while and then decided 2020 hit and we were in a 1-bedroom apartment, both trying to work from home. I had already started my business. So I was like trying to have calls and it was just a whole thing. So we were like, okay, we can't live here anymore. And then we decided we wanted to grow our family. So we were doing that. I guess we had decided before we bought our house, but and then that didn't happen. I feel like it was just, we couldn't ever figure out exactly what was going on. And I think that was like really frustrating and like the grief of, okay, maybe it happened this month and then it not happening every month was really, really hard. And then
How long did you guys try before you started really going and talking to doctors and saying, no, it's not really happening?
I think my doctor was like 12 months.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it was like 10 months, 12 months, like something around
That's
there.
usually about right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And
a long time of having the hope and then having the
yeah,
letdown, like that's
totally.
really hard.
Yeah. And I think I thought like they teach you, I feel like that like, oh, don't have sex because like you could get pregnant. Like it could happen in one time, which is totally true. But also it's not that
Yeah.
like it's not that crazy to so I think learning that it's not just gonna like that first month, I remember being like, oh shit, we gotta be ready,
Yeah.
And I think
When really
sure
it's
you
like
do.
an 11% chance to get pregnant every month.
And you're like, man, I
are
really
spot on.
passed up some fun times with all these worries
Right.
of getting knocked up immediately. And now when I
Exactly.
want it to happen,
Exactly.
Yeah, but
and you don't get taught it though.
No.
right.
And
But if you'd have done the other, you probably would have
would've
gotten it.
yeah, exactly. Because you didn't want it.
Right,
It had
right,
happened.
right.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Reverse.
I know. Isn't that so funny?
Yeah.
I do feel like we could go back to like the adoption decision, but that just like segues so perfectly. So we had a 2-year contract with our like agency, where like they would help us connect with a birth mom for 2 years, and then at the 2-year mark, you could decide if you wanted to do this extra like contingency thing to help it happen. But and so we were getting close to our 2-year mark. It was going to be up in June, and this is like March. And literally, Adam and I go out to dinner. His birthday's in March, and we were talking about if you could have it go any way you wanted this to go, how would you want it to happen? He was like, I mean, it'd be really fun to match for my birthday to like connect with a birth mom. like, we don't have to have the baby. And we had 2 failed matches already at this point. Um, I'd love to match with the birth mom for my birthday. And I was like, yeah, I mean, that would be so fun. Like, totally. And that was kind of like the end of that conversation. And then we ended up deciding, in case it doesn't happen, let's make sure we have something really fun to look forward to. And so in June, makes me like emotional even telling the story, but we decided that we were going to go to Lucca, Italy to see Ed Sheeran in concert. He was going to be playing there. Yeah, like this like old Coliseum-y type place.
Ugh.
But basically what happened was we went to dinner on Saturday night, said, how would you want this to go? And he said, I would love to match with a birth mom for my birthday. And we had already like failed matches twice. And, but we were like, yeah, that would be amazing. Sunday, we booked tickets to Italy to go to Lucca to see Ed Sheeran. Monday, we get a text from our agency. Hey, someone has like picked you. You've been matched. We texted her, which is how she wanted to be connected with. And then Tuesday, she texted us back after Adam's birthday dinner. Like his birthday was on Tuesday.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And it was like one of those things where it's like, as soon as you don't need it, because we had Lucca, we were, worst case scenario, we're going to go see Ed Sheeran. And it was like, I remember being like, fine, baby, if you don't want to come, like I'm going to Italy. This is going to be amazing. And then on Tuesday, she texted us back. And the craziest part was we were at dinner, hadn't heard from her yet. It'd been over 24 hours since we had texted her. And Adam sees someone walk by with her last name on their name tag. There was like some business event at this like really nice restaurant. And like she has a wild last name, and this person just like walked by with her last name on a name tag. And Adam was like, I just saw what is happening. And then we got home, and she had texted us while we were driving home.
Wow.
Yeah. And so,
Are you sure he's not a manifestor?
Yeah.
I was like, this is crazy. But I really do think it was that like fuck it moment of like, okay, I don't need it anymore. And then it happened.
Released it.
Yeah. And she was due the next week. So we were like, okay. Like, and she was like, my biggest fear is, can you make it to Omaha before literally the next Tuesday was her due date? And so we were like, I mean, we will be there.
Yeah.
We'll figure this out. So that was crazy. And then like so many things lined up, and it just felt like the universe being like, I know I've said no for so long, but here's the yes.
Yeah.
And that was really cool.
Yeah.
And so just being able to Nebraska had so many different rules than Ohio. And so our home study was like valid here, but not in Nebraska. We had like 3 days to get our shit together to go.
Wow.
And like you have to have a like a social worker like verify you basically. And she had been not difficult to schedule with, but like not super easy. And she happened to be like going through like near us on that Friday, and then accidentally picked up our like folder that morning, and like didn't even realize, like she was like, oh, I didn't mean to bring the Droughts. And then so then we had texted her and said like, hey, this is last minute. We didn't realize we needed you. Would you be, and she didn't usually work Fridays. And she was like, yeah, actually I have, like, it was like the universe told me to bring your folder today. And then she showed up. And it was like all kinds of things like that happened. And it was like, it just felt like the universe being like, this is it. This is it. This is it. And with adoption too, you have to the most helpful advice that I got was the child is not yours until they are yours. Right. And so like those 2 failed matches, it was really helpful to not like, some people, throw a baby shower specifically for that child, or like, those types of things. And it was really helpful to be like, okay, that's not our baby until they've signed the parental rights. And because of the way ours went, we had to wait 15 days, which is it's usually 48 hours. But ours was extended. And so those 15 days, we were like, we are glorified babysitters. Like, this is not our child yet. Like, we were with him the whole time, which was really awesome. But I feel like because the universe had given us so many signs and we kept seeing 333 and 444, and Caleb was born on 4/4/24, like the closest thing to 444 you can have.
Wow.
And so I was like, my little angel baby. And so like all of those things, I feel like those 15 days weren't nearly as horrible as I would have expected, because it felt like the universe was being like, he's yours.
Yeah.
Just hang out for a
Just
little
wait.
bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Just be a little more patient with me. He's
Yeah.
coming. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh.
And
What
so
was-
that was really fun.
What was like the initial conversation? So when you said, okay, like this isn't happening the way we thought it was going to, we
Yeah.
should look into adoption. Like, what was that decision like?
Yeah. It is funny. Adam and I were just talking about this the other day. When we first started dating, we were getting physical and all that kind of stuff. And I had had a lot of problems with my like cycle well before, like when I first got my period, I bled for a year and they just couldn't figure out why. It was just on and off all the time, random. And so I was put on birth control really early just to like try and help all of that. And I was like, I had become anemic and like all these things because of what I was going through. And so even at that time in college, sometimes I would just like randomly bleed. So I would have like a tampon or a pad and like almost all the time just as a little like to help
Safeguard,
me.
yeah.
Because I had bled through so many pants, all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
at one point, I remember like sitting in his room at the fraternity house, and I was like, I need to talk to you about something that's hard. I'm going to turn around so I don't look at your face, and I'm going to pretend you're a girl. And he was like, what is happening? And luckily we had been like dating for a little bit by that point. So he was like, okay, whatever. And so then I told him that I had had these like issues and stuff. And I was like, if that means that you don't want to be with me, like, I totally understand. Like, I don't know. Someone had told me when I was in 8th grade that they weren't sure I could like have kids, which I've had doctors be like, no one should ever tell you that. Because like they have no idea. Like, why would they say that? And it's so interesting. Now my cycles are totally fine. So if anyone's like going through that, it's just like, whatever. Take it all with a grain of salt. But yeah, so I remember I told him about it and his response was, well, that's okay. Worst case scenario, we can adopt. And so we had talked about that from like the very beginning. And then when it wasn't happening, we like did all kinds of stuff to try and make it work. And I just had this like, it wasn't even really a gut feeling. My, in human design, I have like an open third eye. And so the way I like to make decisions is like through my third eye, which I'm still trying to like figure out exactly what that means. But I feel like I had this knowing of like, okay, I'm done with my body stuff. Let's look at other options. And so we looked into different adoption options, and I found this one that I like. I found them on Instagram, and there was someone who had said they'd gone back to this group for their second child. I was like, well, if you're going back, like that's a really good sign. And I kept looking on their page. It's called Everlasting Adoptions, in case anybody is interested. But or wants to talk to me about it, I'd be super open. But I kept looking at their page and they kept saying they didn't have any openings for waiting families. And that was one thing that I really liked about them, because depending on, I don't know how much you guys know about adoption, but you can, there are groups that you can join, and then you basically get like the information of birth moms as they like become available. And then you like talk, basically say like, you know, I would love to connect with you. And this group had a like you couldn't just join, you had to like be a member of their group, and you didn't bid to them. They just like put your information out there, and the birth moms chose you first, which wasn't always like the case with some of the other ones. And you didn't have to bid. You just like your stuff was up on their website, and the moms had the opportunity to come look, or the families. I guess not everyone was just a birth mom by themselves, but and so like that felt really good. And I remember looking and looking and looking, and they never had any openings. And then I was like, well, I'm still going to show it to Adam one day. And I pulled it up on the computer and showed it to him, and it said, we have one spot available. And I remember being like, fuck it, universe. Like, oh yeah, let's go.
Wow.
And I remember also saying like, make this easy because this has been so hard. And it was. And then like they interviewed us, and like, you know, of course we interviewed them as well, and then got accepted into that group. And then, yeah, it was like almost 2 years later when we connected with Angie. And
You said that you're kind of over the stuff with your body.
yeah,
I don't know that everybody out there understands that any infertility treatment is so hard.
yeah,
It's so hard on the ladies, like
so
what you
hard.
have to endure to
Yeah.
try to kickstart your body, the hormones you have to take, the injections you have to take. Do you want to speak
Oh
on
my
that
gosh.
in any way of
Yeah.
kind of what got you down that road of being like, you know, I'm kind of over this roller coaster. It's really hard.
Yeah. I think, and the other piece of it too is there's so many things that they suggest doing, like changing your diet. And I was seeing like a nutritional person, and I was seeing the acupuncturist, and I was a chiropractor. Like there are so many things, and I think so many of them are valuable. And I like took what I wanted from them and left the rest. And like I still see a chiropractor, I love that, you know, and I loved the acupuncture too. But it just felt like I had all these appointments all the time, and it was just like so much pressure I felt like on my body to like show up, and then the hormones and how that changes your body and your libido, like all of it. I feel like it was really intense. And the, you know, you go through this like huge process to try to make it happen, and then to get the no over and over and over again. And we never got a yes, which I think was hard in its own way because we never lost technically anything, but we never had a positive. So for me, I think one of the biggest things was like letting myself grieve. I love to name everybody. So, or like allowing myself to grieve as if we had lost, and like naming our baby together that we lost.
Yeah.
Those types of things, like claiming that and like allowing ourselves to feel that way, I think was really helpful. It is a lot. And Adam too, had some like things come up on his chart. So he was doing all of that stuff too. For some of it, he didn't do the acupuncture or the chiropractic, but he was doing the nutrition and the supplements and all of that kind of stuff. And I think for him too, he was just like, this is overwhelming to try to do with the rest of my life. And so it was just like, this isn't working. And we talked about this at the beginning before we started recording, I think, but like that idea of like, is this saying I'm not meant to be a parent, or is this saying that I just need to try harder? I think was one of the hardest things for us. And I mean, I remember being like a super little kid and wanting to be a mom and playing with all my dolls. And my first friend and I ever, her name was Jessica, and I called her Kaka because I didn't know how to say Jessica so bad. But we would have like spots on the walls of each of our playrooms that were like our husbands, and we would go kiss the wall when they came up from work, and we would take care of all our baby dolls. And like I remember like I wanted to be a mom forever, and I think that helper part of me too, you know, was like, I'm like meant for this. And Adam felt very similarly. And so we had a discussion of like, so that we're not meant for this. And I remember us being like, I don't want that to be true. So like, let's not choose that.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, then that means we are going to try this different way.
That's so powerful. What you just said is like, we don't choose to believe that. Like,
Yeah.
I think we often just feel like we have to keep trying or pushing. And sometimes it's like, so many things can be true at once.
Yeah.
And
So many
maybe the
things.
truth is that this avenue is not right,
Right.
but we choose to be parents. So we're going to be parents.
Yeah.
And let's make that happen. And that's our truth.
Yeah.
And then not focus on this other avenue that just didn't work.
Right. Right. And not making it mean anything.
Totally.
Or like, I think that's also one of the hardest parts I think about adoption is through the process. And it makes sense why they do it, of course, but like through the process, you have to prove that you are a good parent or will be a good parent. And I think like that has been really hard for me and harder for me, I think, than for Adam. But like you deserve almost to be a parent, and doing all of the paperwork. And because of how the adoption has gone, we have to do more paperwork now. Like that's what I was doing last week. And, we have to get 4 more references that say that we're good with Caleb now. And like reaching out to our friends and asking them to like vouch for us is like so hard. And just like allowing ourselves to be taken care of in that way is hard. But I think like if I wouldn't have worked on like I deserve to be a mom because I want to, it would be even harder to do all of the stuff to like, if you have a fire extinguisher in a specific place because you have to, and like,
Right.
all of that kind of stuff. I feel like it just like is so hard. And so I think if you don't have that, like, because I want to, because I'm deciding I deserve to, it would be really easy to give up.
I
Yeah.
also would have had no idea that you would have to still get references after you've had your child for how old is he now?
He's almost 10 months.
Yeah, that you're still
Yeah.
going through that vetting process of,
Yeah.
I guess before it's final, that it would still be carrying on at this point. I think I would have the mental picture of she chose you, you meet her, you spend time with her, the baby's born, everybody watches you, you have several, home visits to make sure everything looks great. Done deal.
Yeah. And
You know?
yeah. And honestly, like sometimes that is how it goes. So like some people can have that experience where it is like a little bit easier. We had a different experience, like because of our birth mom's background, we had like an extra of things we had to do. So like the 15 days and things like that. Which like not everyone would have to experience. And then because of her circumstances, like Franklin County and Nebraska were at a stalemate. So now we're changing counties. So there is like, I feel like we have extenuating circumstances that not everybody has to do that. But because so much time has passed, now we have to redo some of our home study stuff.
Oh boy.
And so like that's where the references come in of like redoing that stuff. But yeah, it is kind of like crazy that you have to just like keep going and keep doing it. And like, obviously he's 1,000% worth it. But last week I have had a little bit of like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Going
I'm ready for this part of this to be over.
Yeah.
Universe, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
What has been like your biggest learning after this process has you've been through?
I think definitely that like, because I want it, I'm going to create it, but that doesn't mean I have to force it. I think is a big one. Like, just because I love thinking about like whatever you're dreaming of, whatever you want is like your future self calling to you and being like, you can fucking do it. Just like you believe in yourself and you can do it. Like, I think that has really been a big one that I didn't have before. And then I think there's definitely something with like the things that we push away, like we can't keep pushing them away. Like for me, there was a lot of feelings and grief and like that kind of stuff with the fertility. And I think having the 2 years of waiting on adoption, like I learned how to reparent myself. I learned like how to feel my feelings, like what that really meant. And like, I think it also helped us discover like it's okay if it's both and like everything is both. Adoption is like we have the coolest story, right? And like going all the way out to Omaha and we brought our bunny and like all of that kind of stuff. Like we just had like like such a cool experience and getting to meet Angie and love on her and like she bought us a little onesie that said worth the wait and like we all cried together and it was like amazing and wonderful and really, really, really hard and really sad for Caleb to not have his birth family as like his, main family. But so happy that like we get to be his parents and it's like the best gift ever and getting to watch him grow. And I think now when he cries in the middle of the night, I'm like, I prayed for this. Like I used to imagine getting to do this. And I think that has been a huge thing for my parent brain, which I named Willow, to like realize that like, okay, like you wanted this, like, this is so cool that you get to experience it. I think that's something I'm really grateful for the adoption experience because I feel like I wouldn't have necessarily cherished the like late nights and stuff like that in the way that I do now. And I think the everything's going to work out piece has been a really big one. It might just be not how you wanted it to, but as long as you don't give up, it's going to happen. Um, and then also I think life happens at the fuck it point has really been a big one too.
Yeah.
Book the trip to Italy and it'll happen. I think
A lesson for us all.
yeah, that has been a huge one. So I think just like so many things kind of like shifting into place, um, and realizing that like because you want it, you can have it, and you can mess up and still get it, and like you get to decide that you're a good parent and like all that kind of stuff.
It's so funny that as you're talking, a lot of what you say about that process, you say about coaching.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny that those tools have come
Yeah.
into translation and that you can use as powerful things in your coaching?
Yeah.
That all of those things, that nothing's a mistake. It's all going to come in due time. There's plenty of, right? It's the same process.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
I love thinking about coaching as like I'm living it and learning it deeper and deeper and deeper, and then being able to help people with that too. Like I think sometimes when I get burnt out or when I overgive, sometimes it's like, okay, I'm doing this for my clients. Like, caught it, let's go. Like that kind of stuff I think is really fun. And getting to be the example and having to go first, I think can be daunting. But then when it gets to be because I also want to help people do that too, has been really fun.
Yeah.
Which leads me to like something that I think has also really helped in case there are other people who are like dealing with fertility stuff. The idea of like spirit babies was something that was really helpful for me, and just realizing that we're deciding to believe that we have like soul connections that have already been decided, and like I don't have to worry about my future kiddos. Like we want more than one, not sure exactly how many or when or anything like that, but just knowing that they're already connected to you, and like you get to just like call them in and they're calling you, and like having that already decided ahead of time, I think has been something that was really a game changer for me. In like, okay, they're like out there.
Yeah.
I think that was really, really helpful, especially when it was really hard.
Yeah.
And I think learning how to celebrate the breakdowns, like, the breakdown comes before the breakthrough, like that idea of like, when I'm having a really hard time, it actually means I'm closer than I've ever been. And like allowing myself to feel deeper than I ever have is actually getting me ready to like feel even more like amazing things than I ever have. And like seeing that as like a positive thing, I think has been a really big thing for me too. Cause it is like, sometimes you're not okay. And being able to talk about that, I think is really cool. It's something to celebrate. And then it's like, and it also doesn't mean anything's gone wrong.
Are you accepting new clients right now? Where can people find you? What kind of clients are your ideal clients?
Yeah. So I am accepting new clients. And I also have some offerings that are like, they're actually private podcasts. So it's an audio course that people can go through. I've got one on burnout. I've got one on the job search stuff. And then I have one called Wish Granted. That's all about like creating the things that you want and believing in the wishes that you have. And so that's also really fun.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I do human design readings, but not super deep. It's like the beginning. So if anybody's never had their human design read, I love doing that and like helping people scratch the surface as well. It's all on my website, which is just Liesl, Liesl coaching.com. You can find me on Instagram, just Liesl Drought. And yeah, I think those are all of my current offerings. But yeah, I think like the more I grow, the more I feel like I just want to like get all of that stuff out into the world. And I feel like for me, my ideal clients, I love working with burnout stuff. Like if you're feeling burnt out, I've worked with people who've been like hospitalized, burnout, kind of really deep in the weeds. And then even like, okay, I feel like I'm getting a little burnt out. So wherever.
Can you give people like 5 signs that you may be currently burnt out and you don't know it?
Or on that path.
Going down in flames.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest ones is like if you have the Sunday scaries or if you really don't want to go to work, that's definitely one that I love to help people with. If you feel like you want to just watch TV or just not do anything, that's another sign that you could be burnt out. Um, I think if you are really short with the people that you care about, that's another sign that you're burnt out. And we can totally help with that. Um, I also think, I mean, if you are having weird body things happening, if you're sick and you don't know why, if you get hives every day, that was one of mine. If you just feel really low all the time, that can be one. Um, and then also I feel like something I see a lot of is like if you feel underwater with what you've got going on, that's another big sign that you could be burnt out. Like the overwhelm, the anxiety, like those types of things.
Because I feel like some women just think that's
Normal.
just being a woman in America, you know?
Yeah.
And they don't realize that that's not how
Yeah.
it should be.
Yeah. I think society celebrates burnout because there's like so much about hustle culture that we didn't talk about, but there's like this culture that celebrates the hustle and the burnout. And the thing is, if you're burnt out, then you're not like lifting your head out of the sand to discover what you want for yourself. And then, corporate America has you right where they want you. So you'll stick around because you're too tired to figure out what it is you actually want. And
you're too fearful of what the unknown can bring.
Exactly.
They have you right where they want you, which is, wouldn't you rather know the enemy?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that fear of like, what if the grass isn't greener is something that I work with people a lot on. But I think the biggest thing is like learning how to listen to yourself. And that's like what I love helping people do, to like see, you know what, you don't have to burn any bridges. And so you could try this thing, hate it, switch, go back. I've had clients like leave jobs and then go back to the same company and get paid like 50% more and do something that they actually love for that company, like totally available. And so just like allowing yourself that space and freedom and safety to like try something different.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a big
Sometimes you
part.
just need to get out of whatever it is you're doing
Totally.
to see. Be
Exactly.
like, oh, wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got my head out of the sand.
Yeah.
Now what do I want? Wait, this thing that I chose is not right though.
Yeah.
I need to figure it out and then find the right thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Good. Well, thank you for that. I do think women, we just keep trudging on sometimes and we don't pick our head up long enough to say, hey, what I want matters.
Yeah.
And I matter as much as my family and my 401k and my savings and my whatever, right? Like, and what my desires are matters as much as my husband's or my partner's and my kids, and reclaiming that I matter in that space as well. And that I might be burnt out and I might want to do something different. I might not want to do anything at all. I might want to stay home with my kids. I might, whatever that looks like, so thank you for shedding light on that and helping people through that process. I think it's really important.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely think it is so easy because it's so normalized as like, this is what we expect, especially I think as moms. I'm kind of grateful I did my whole like switching industries and then choosing my own entrepreneurial adventure like before kids. Cause I think sometimes that like motherhood, mom guilt shit can like really get in the way of some of that stuff.
For sure.
So yeah, I feel that.
Absolutely.
Especially now.
Do you have a few women in your life that you want to shout out, or anyone that you feel like, whether you know them or not, that really have helped guide you to who you are today?
Yeah. My coach, Lindsay Mango, is amazing. She's really fun to follow on social media. And I think my first ever like self-help book that kind of like started it all for me was Jen Sincero's.
Say that intuitively.
Yes.
I love that book.
Same. Yeah, You Are a Badass is like one of my Bibles. Like I think it's amazing.
Like, can you remember listening to the first time? Like I could remember being like in my car listening to it for the first time.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it.
I've never read it.
Oh my gosh.
You have to read it. Okay.
Yeah, I read it. Like I didn't listen.
Yeah.
I read it and I dropped my copy in the pool. I remember because I was like, And then I dropped it and I was like, no. So my copy is like all warped. Yeah, which just makes it that much better. But yeah, I feel like Jen Sincero is a huge one. I love like Brene Brown and like some of those bigger names, Glennon Doyle. Her books are really fun. And then, yeah, I think just like allowing yourself to surround yourself with people who have the life you want, I think is another really big one for me. So I love Manifestation Babe on Instagram. She's
Yeah.
one of my favorites. But just like allowing yourself to like explore other people's lives and follow them and know that it's possible for you because it's possible for them. And Amanda Francis, love her. So yeah, I think, and there are so many local women too that I think are just like are so much fun to celebrate. And like Kathleen Layer is one of my favorite coach friends. And yeah, just like surround yourself with people that you enjoy, especially online, I think.
I like
Amen
what
to
you
that.
said about like picking the thing. You know what I mean? Like having this network of women that we all have access to and like taking the time to say like, what does this person have to say? You know, like interestingly, I love You Are a Badass, but I tried reading her Making Money book
Oh
and
yeah.
it didn't resonate with me as much. And instead of being like,
Sure.
I can't believe this, I just thought that's okay. That's just I'm picking and choosing, and I get more value out of Mel Robbins and listen to her talk about being a businesswoman than you know what I'm saying? But that's what's beautiful about women sharing their stories, and what works for them is we all have the opportunity to then to learn from them and the capacity that feels good for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I love the idea of like, take what you want, leave everything else.
totally.
Like that's true for everything.
The whole purpose of the podcast is for women to hear themselves and other people's stories.
And for them to find you and say, hey, something that you said really resonated with me. And maybe they saw you online as just like, not just, but as a coach. And then to hear your story and how you overcame obstacles when it came to knowing you wanted to be a mother. Like these things are so important for other women to hear and say, like, I didn't know that. And now I know that you mentioned earlier, I'm open to people DMing me
Oh
and
my gosh,
having these
yes.
conversations. And suddenly you built a community and built a resource for someone that maybe didn't have one.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And
Beautiful.
especially when it comes to fertility and adoption stuff, like I'm always, I mean, with anything, of course, to burnout, always love talking about that. But I think, yeah, especially the fertility and adoption stuff is like what's top of mind for me now. And yeah, if anybody's like thinking about that or struggling with that, or I think the biggest thing would be just to like whatever feels good to you to help, and depending on your human design too, but like it was really valuable for me to be like, just lead me, just like help me out here, universe. Like I know I want to be a mom. I promise I won't give up, even if it takes me 15 years. I remember like making that decision to myself and then, okay, just like help me figure it out. And I think that has been really, really cool.
And you've gotten an invitation literally
Yeah.
the entire way.
I know.
Isn't that
So
cool?
true.
You know?
Yeah.
Like you were in flow that whole time and got an invitation. You didn't have to force any piece of that. You literally got an invite every time.
Yeah. So true.
That's really powerful.
Yeah. Thank you.
And you know that as a projector, right? You're like, you're supposed to wait on it. We're supposed to wait for invites too.
What? Since when? Something I blocked all of that out. Wait a second.
Yeah.
Well, that's why forcing isn't fun. That's my new slogan. Forcing isn't fun.
Forcing
everyone.
isin fun.
And you can't force fun.
That's right.
Wow.
That is
was a
correct.
corny thing I said. I might leave it though.
I think you should. I think the corniest things are the things you remember, right? Like that sticks with you.
That's right.
Forcing isn't fun.
You can't force fun. All right. Well, we will make sure we tag every place that people can find you.
Sure.
Thank you so much for coming and
Oh my
spending
gosh, this
time
was so
with
fun.
us.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh my gosh,
It was so fun.
You're
You have
waiting
a
for that
great
invitation.
story.
You just didn't
Yeah.
know.
You have a great story. You're doing great work.
Thank you.
And people would be privileged really to work with you. So
Well,
you
thank
guys should seek her out.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
In the meantime, make sure you're giving us a follow on Spotify, Apple
Yes.
Podcast, iHeart, and then on YouTube where you'll be able to watch this. So
Yeah. And until
So
the next
fun.
time, you guys.
love you.
Love you.